You know that weird feeling when payday finally hits? The Fishbank app shows the deposit, and for about 12 seconds you feel like a financially functional adult. Then you remember rent, then the car payment, then the credit card, then the student loan, then groceries, then insurance, then the subscription pile, and then that thing you bought 3 weeks ago that is now somehow due. And before you even touch the money, it already feels gone. That feeling is not in your imagination. For a lot of people, the paycheck is not disappearing after it arrives. It was already spent before it got there. My name is Cash Cat, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, the fish bank, the mouse market, and why so many people work hard, earn real dollars, and still feel like every paycheck passes through their life like a guest who refuses to sit down. The common explanation is simple. Everything is expensive. And yes, everything being expensive is definitely part of the story. Food, insurance, medical costs, transportation, childcare, and basic life are not exactly handing out discounts. But that explanation is incomplete, because two people can earn the same paycheck and have completely different experiences. One person gets paid and feels room, the other gets paid and feels chased. The difference is not always income. Sometimes the difference is how much of the paycheck is already claimed by the past. That is the hidden mechanism. Your paycheck does not just pay for this month. It often pays for decisions from last month, last year, and sometimes the last version of you who was tired, stressed, hopeful, embarrassed, or trying to feel normal. That couch on financing, that phone upgrade, that car loan, that vacation balance, that dinner you put on a card because you were going to handle it next payday, that subscription you forgot about, that insurance plan, that apartment you stretched for because it was only a little more. All of those decisions are standing at the door before your paycheck even arrives. So when the deposit hits, it is not walking into an empty room. It is walking into a room full of hands, and every hand says, "Mine." That is why payday can feel strangely disappointing. You waited for it, you needed it, you imagined relief. But by the time the automatic payments, minimums, and basic costs line up, the relief is gone. This creates a specific kind of financial exhaustion. Not the dramatic kind where you do not know if you can pay anything. The quieter kind, where you technically make enough to keep the machine running, but never enough to step off the machine. You are not falling behind fast. You are not getting ahead either. You are just cycling. Money comes in, money goes out. You work, you wait, you get paid, you catch up, and you fall behind again. You promise next month will be different. Then next month arrives wearing the same outfit. That cycle is not just a budget problem. It is a structure problem. Let us break it down. The first reason your paycheck feels gone before it arrives is fixed costs. Fixed costs are the bills that do not care how your month went. Rent does not care that groceries were higher. The car payment does not care that your hours got cut. Insurance does not care that your kid needed something. Subscriptions do not care that you forgot they existed. Debt payments do not care that you are tired. Fixed costs are powerful because they reduce choice. If your paycheck is $4,000 a month after taxes, and rent is $1,700, the car is $600, insurance is $250, student loans are $300, minimum credit card payments are $250, phone and internet are $180, and subscriptions are $80, you have already promised $3,360 before food, gas, medical costs, household items, clothes, repairs, gifts, or anything fun. On paper, you make $4,000. In real life, you are trying to live on what is left after the promises. And the promises are heavy. This is why people can have decent income and still feel broke. The income is real, but so are the claims against it. Think of your paycheck like water entering a tank. If the tank has too many pipes draining out automatically, it does not matter how excited you are when the water comes in. It is already leaving. That is fixed cost pressure. The second reason is debt. Debt is past spending reaching into the present. This is not a moral insult. It is just the mechanics. Sometimes debt came from survival. Sometimes it came from emergencies. Sometimes it came from bad luck. Sometimes it came from trying to look normal. Sometimes it came from small choices that did not feel dangerous at the time. But no matter where it came from, debt has the same effect. It reduces the power of future paychecks. When you carry credit card debt, your paycheck has to pay for your current life and your past life at the same time. That is exhausting. It is like going grocery shopping while also paying for groceries you ate 6 months ago, plus interest because those groceries were impatient. Interest is what makes debt feel so sticky. You pay, but the balance barely moves. You make the minimum, but the minimum is not designed to free you quickly. It is designed to keep the account alive. So you get paid, send money to the card, feel responsible for 4 seconds, and then realize your actual life still needs groceries, gas, and everything else. So the card gets used again. That is the debt loop. The paycheck pays the debt. The debt creates a cash shortage. The cash shortage creates more debt. Then the next paycheck arrives, already tired. This is one of the reasons your money feels gone before it arrives. It is not only paying bills, it is fighting interest. And interest fights back every day. Now let us talk about timing, because timing is a sneaky part of this. A lot of people do not have a monthly money problem. They have a timing problem that becomes a money problem. Maybe rent is due on the 1st, but payday is the 5th. Maybe the car payment hits 2 days before the deposit. Maybe insurance, utilities, and credit cards all cluster in the same week. Maybe you get paid bi-weekly, but your bills are monthly, so some months feel manageable, and others feel like a trap door opened under your feet. When timing is bad, you end up using credit cards, overdraft, payment plans, or little transfers just to smooth the gaps. The problem is that smoothing the gaps often creates new payments. This is how a timing problem becomes a debt problem. The fish bank balance drops too low before payday. You swipe the card. Payday comes, you pay the card. Now you are short again, so you swipe again. The pattern feels normal because each individual move seems logical, but the whole system is unstable.
Stable money has space between due dates and disaster.
Unstable money is always waiting for the next deposit to rescue it. That rescue feeling can become addictive in a strange way. Payday feels like salvation. Then bills immediately absorb it. Then the countdown starts again. You are not planning. You are waiting. And waiting is not a strategy. The third reason your paycheck feels gone is lifestyle creep. Lifestyle creep is not always dramatic. Most people imagine it as someone getting a raise and immediately buying a sports car. But the real version is quieter. A little nicer apartment, more delivery, more convenience, a better phone plan, a few more subscriptions, a more expensive grocery routine, a car that is only a few hundred more than the old one, a habit of saying yes more often because you technically can. Each upgrade feels deserved, and maybe it is. You work hard. Life is tiring. Comfort matters. But if every raise gets converted into a fixed expectation, your paycheck never gets stronger. It just gets more responsibilities. This is why some people earn more and feel the same. They did not increase their margin, they increased their lifestyle. Margin is the money between what comes in and what must go out. Margin is not glamorous, but it is everything. Margin is where savings come from. Margin is where investing begins. Margin is where emergencies get absorbed. Margin is where choices live. Without margin, a paycheck is not a tool. It is just a pass-through. Money enters your life and immediately exits through all the doors you opened. The goal is not to close every door. That would be miserable. The goal is to stop opening new doors every time income rises. Now, there is another reason paychecks feel gone that people do not like discussing. Invisible spending. Invisible spending is not necessarily secret. It is just untracked, unexamined, and emotionally forgettable.
convenience purchases, little subscriptions, app charges, extra grocery trips, delivery fees, ride shares, snacks, digital purchases, upgrades, tips, one-click orders. Things that individually seem too small to matter and collectively explain the missing money. This is where people get defensive, because nobody wants to be told their coffee is the reason they are broke. And honestly, sometimes it is not. Housing, transportation, healthcare, childcare, and debt are usually much bigger forces. But small spending still matters when there is no margin. When your budget has plenty of room, a $12 purchase is just a $12 purchase. When your budget is already tight, 100 tiny $12 purchases become the reason your paycheck feels haunted. The issue is not coffee. The issue is unconsciousness. If you choose the coffee and it fits, fine, enjoy the coffee. But if small purchases happen automatically because you are stressed, rushed, bored, or trying to buy a few moments of relief, then they become emotional leaks. And emotional leaks are hard to find because they do not feel like financial decisions. They feel like coping. That is why telling someone to just stop spending can miss the point. Sometimes the spending is filling a life problem: exhaustion, loneliness, overwork, burnout, lack of time, lack of support. If your life is constantly draining you, your money will often become the tool you use to buy small escapes. This is not an excuse, it is a clue. If your paycheck disappears into convenience, the question is not only, how do I cut convenience? The question is, why is my life so inconvenient that I keep needing to purchase relief? That question can change the entire conversation. Now let us talk about gross pay versus real pay. A lot of people mentally live on their salary number, not their actual deposit. Someone says, I make $70,000 a year, and their brain starts building a lifestyle around $70,000. But after taxes, insurance, retirement contributions, and deductions, the actual money arriving at the fish bank might be much lower. Then monthly bills are built around the identity of the salary, not the reality of the deposit. This creates a gap between how rich you think you should feel and how tight things actually are. You think, I make too much to feel this broke. But you may not be budgeting against what you receive. You may be budgeting against what the job title sounds like. This is especially dangerous when someone gets a raise. The raise sounds big annually, but after taxes and deductions, it may only be a few hundred extra per month. If you upgrade your life by more than that, the raise disappears before you ever feel it. That is how people get promoted into the same financial stress. More responsibility, slightly more money, more pressure to look successful, higher expectations, same empty feeling after payday. Now the paycheck is larger, but the lifestyle has already swallowed it. This is why Cash Cat loves one boring question. What is the money already assigned to do? Not what do you make, not what do you hope to save, and not what should be possible. What is the money already assigned to do? When you answer that honestly, the paycheck starts making sense. You see the claims, you see the old decisions, you see the fixed costs, you see the debt, you see the quiet leaks. You see why the deposit feels gone. That can be uncomfortable, but it is also powerful. Confusion makes you feel helpless. Clarity gives you a handle. The goal is not to shame yourself for the way money has been moving. The goal is to stop being surprised by it. Because surprise is expensive. When you are surprised by your own bills, you overdraft. When you are surprised by annual expenses, you use credit. When you are surprised by the true cost of your car, you fall behind. When you are surprised by how much groceries actually cost, you blame yourself instead of adjusting the plan. A lot of financial peace comes from removing surprise. That is what a real budget is supposed to do. Not punish you. Not make you feel like a bad person for wanting tacos. Not turn your life into a financial prison. A real budget is just a map of the promises your money has already made. And once you see the map, you can start changing the route. Now, if your paycheck currently feels gone before it arrives, the first move is not always to make a complicated spreadsheet. The first move is to separate the paycheck into 3 categories: Already gone, needs to stay, can be directed. Already gone is rent, minimum debt payments, car payment, insurance, utilities, and any fixed bills that are coming no matter what. Needs to stay is food, gas, basic household needs, medicine, and the real variable expenses required to live.
Can be directed is the money that has not yet been claimed. This is where saving, investing, extra debt payments, fun, and flexibility live. If the can be directed category is tiny, you have found the problem. The paycheck is not mysterious. It is overassigned. And when money is overassigned, discipline alone cannot fix everything. You need to reduce claims. That means looking at fixed costs first. Can housing change at renewal? Can transportation be reduced? Can insurance be shopped? Can subscriptions be cut? Can a debt be attacked aggressively so one payment disappears? Can you stop adding new obligations while you clean up the old ones? This last part is huge. If your paycheck already feels gone, the most dangerous thing you can do is add another monthly payment. Not because you were never allowed to buy anything, because monthly payments are how the future gets crowded. Every new payment is a little worker standing in line for your next paycheck. Buy now, pay later is one of the clearest examples. It makes the present feel easy and the future feel crowded. 4 small payments sound harmless. But if you do that with enough purchases, future paychecks become cluttered with past wants. Then payday arrives, and you wonder why the money is already gone. It is because your past self made appointments with it. Now, let us bring in the mouse market for a second. The saddest part of an overclaimed paycheck is not only stress, it is lost compounding. If every dollar is already assigned to bills, there is nothing left to send into the mouse market. No little workers, no long-term growth, no quiet ownership accumulating in the background. You stay dependent entirely on labor income, which means every month you must work again just to restart the same cycle. Investing is not only about becoming rich, it is about slowly making your future less dependent on your next paycheck. But you cannot invest what your past already spent. That is why freeing even a small amount of margin matters so much. The first $50 a month invested may not look dramatic. The first $100 toward debt may not feel life-changing. The first $500 emergency buffer may feel tiny. But these are signs that your paycheck is no longer completely owned by the past. You are reclaiming pieces of it. That is how the cycle starts to break. Not all at once, piece by piece. First, you stop adding new payments. Then you find one leak. Then you build a tiny buffer at the fish bank, so timing problems stop becoming debt problems. Then you attack one balance. Then one minimum payment disappears. Then that freed payment goes to the next balance or the emergency fund. Then eventually, money that used to go to the past starts going to the future. That is the turning point. The paycheck begins arriving with fewer hands waiting for it. And when fewer hands are waiting, you feel it immediately. Payday stops being a rescue. It becomes a tool. Now, there is one emotional piece we have to talk about. Sometimes your paycheck feels gone because you do not let yourself feel the money before assigning it. You get paid, see the balance, and immediately all the obligations rush in. Your brain never experiences the deposit as yours. One way to change that is to give every paycheck a small amount of intentional joy, even while you are fixing things. Not reckless joy. Not, I am stressed, so I deserve to destroy the plan joy. Just a planned amount that lets your brain understand the budget is not a punishment. Maybe it is $20, maybe $50, maybe more if your situation allows. The number is less important than the fact that it is planned. Because if your financial plan has no room for being human, your human side will eventually break the plan. This is why extreme budgets fail. They ignore reality. People need food, transportation, safety, relationships, rest, and sometimes something small that makes the week feel less gray. The goal is not to eliminate enjoyment. The goal is to stop financing it with chaos. Now, imagine a different version of payday. The deposit hits the fish bank. You already know what is due. You already have money set aside for annual expenses. You have a small buffer, so timing does not scare you. Your fixed costs are lower than they used to be. Your debt payments are shrinking. A little money goes to the mouse market automatically. A little goes to fun without guilt. A little stays as margin. That payday feels completely different. Not because you suddenly became a millionaire, because the paycheck is no longer being ambushed. That is what people actually want. Not just more money, less ambush. More income can help, absolutely. But if the structure is broken, more income can be absorbed by the same pattern. Bigger paycheck, bigger apartment, bigger car, bigger lifestyle, same empty feeling. The real goal is to build a system where increases in income create increases in margin, not just increases in obligations. When you get a raise, pause before upgrading. Let the fish bank feel it first. Let debt shrink. Let the mouse market receive some of it. Give your future self a chance to benefit before your lifestyle claims the whole thing. That pause is powerful. It is the difference between earning more and becoming freer. So if your paycheck feels gone before it arrives, do not assume you are hopeless with money. Start by assuming your paycheck has too many claims on it. Then identify those claims. Which ones are survival? Which ones are past decisions? Which ones are convenience? Which ones are image? Which ones are interest? Which ones can be reduced, delayed, eliminated, or replaced? This is not easy work, but it is clear work. And clear work beats vague panic. Because the paycheck is not disappearing by magic. It is being assigned, drained, split, delayed, borrowed against, and claimed by a system you may not have fully seen yet. Once you see it, you can change it. Maybe slowly, maybe imperfectly, but you can change it. The first goal is not to become rich. The first goal is to make payday feel like it belongs to you again. That means fewer payments, more margin, a buffer at the fish bank, fewer ghosts from past spending, and eventually, little dollars moving into the mouse market where they can work instead of vanish. Because the real sign of financial progress is not just a bigger paycheck. It is a paycheck that does not arrive already exhausted. And when that happens, payday stops feeling like a temporary rescue. It starts feeling like the beginning of a plan.